Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are getting into the book Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker. We are reading the next section called Responsibility for Relationships. So we'll go ahead and get into the reading, and then we will discuss it at the end of the video. Responsibility for relationships. Very few people work by themselves and achieve results by themselves. A few great artists, a few great scientists, a few great athletes. Most people work with others and are effective with other people. That is true whether they are members of an organization or independently employed. Managing yourself requires taking responsibility for relationships. This has two parts. The first is to accept the fact that other people are as much individuals as you yourself are. They perversely insist on behaving like human beings. This means that they too have their strengths. They too have their ways of getting things done. They too have their values. To be effective, therefore, you have to know the strengths, the performance modes, and the values of your coworkers. That sounds obvious, but few people pay attention to it. Typical is a person who was trained to write reports in his or her first assignment because that boss was a reader. Even if the next boss is a listener, the person goes on writing reports that, invariably, produce no results. Invariably, the boss will think the employee is stupid, incompetent, and lazy, and he or she will fail. But that could have been avoided if the employee had only looked at the new boss and analyzed how this boss performs. Bosses are neither a title on the organization chart nor a function. They are individuals and are entitled to do their work in the way they do it best. It is incumbent on the people who work with them to observe them, to find out how they work, and to adapt themselves to what makes their bosses most effective. This is, in fact, the secret of managing the boss. The same holds true for all your coworkers. Each works his or her way, not your way, and each is entitled to work in his or her way. What matters is whether they perform and what their values are. As for how they perform, each is likely to do it differently. The first secret of effectiveness is to understand the people you work with and depend on so you can make use of their strengths, their ways of working, and their values. Working relationships are as much based on the people as they are on the work. The second part of relationship responsibility is taking responsibility for communication. Whenever I, or any other consultant, start to work with an organization, the first thing I hear about are the personality conflicts. Most of these arise from the fact that people do not know what other people are doing and how they do their work, or what contribution the other people are concentrating on and what results they expect. And the reason they do not know is that they have not asked and therefore have not been told. This failure to ask reflects human stupidity less than it reflects human history. Until recently, it was unnecessary to tell any of these things to anybody. In the medieval city, everyone in a district piled the same trade. In the countryside, everyone in a valley planted the same crop as soon as the frost was out of the ground. Even those few people who did things that were not common worked alone, so they did not have to tell anyone what they were doing. Today, the great majority of people work with others who have different tasks and responsibilities. The marketing vice president may have come out of sales and know everything about sales, but she knows nothing about the things she has never done: pricing, advertising, packaging, and the like. So the people who do these things must make sure that the marketing vice president understands that what they are trying to do, why they are trying to do it, and how they are going to do it, and what results to expect. If the marketing vice president does not understand what these high-grade knowledge specialists are doing, it is primarily their fault, not hers. They have not educated her. Conversely, It is the marketing vice president's responsibility to make sure that all of her coworkers understand how she looks at marketing, what her goals are, how she works, and what she expects of herself and of each one of them. Even people who understand the importance of taking responsibility for relationships often do not communicate sufficiently with their associates. They are afraid of being thought presumptuous or inquisitive or stupid. They are wrong. Whenever someone goes to his or her associates and says, "This is what I'm good at. This is how I work. These are my values. This is the contribution I plan to concentrate on and the results I should be expected to deliver," the response is always, "This is most helpful, but why didn't you tell me earlier?" And one gets the same reaction without exception. In my experience, if one continues by asking, "What do I need to know about your strengths, how you perform, your values, and your proposed contribution?" In fact, knowledge workers should request this of everyone with whom they work, whether as subordinate, superior, colleague, or team member. And again, whenever this is done, the reaction is always, "Thanks for asking me, but why didn't you ask me earlier?" Organizations are no longer built on force, but on trust. The existence of trust between people does not necessarily mean that they like one another. It means that they understand one another. Taking responsibility for relationships is therefore an absolute necessity. It is a duty. Whether one is a member of the organization, a consultant to it, a supplier, or a distributor, one owes the responsibility to all one's coworkers. Those who work one depends on, as well as those who depend on one's own work. So to sum this up, from what I got from this part of the book, it really just entails that life is relationships, whether that's with your coworkers, your friends, your family members, or even your mentors. Those are all big aspects of your life, and depending on what you do will determine if you're going to make them a part of how you conduct and build yourself and what you're bringing to the table. Communication is key, and if it's a value in a company or an organization, but it's not being exercised, there's something that's going wrong, or there's something that's not going the way that it needs to go for that organization or that company, and it needs to be exercised. Anyways, guys, that's what I got out of this. Let me know. Let's go ahead and discuss it in the comments down below. Okay, love to hear from you guys, and I'll talk with you in there as well. And as for the video, that'll sum everything up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.